GOJO is back, is what most of the people will be thinking right now. And that may not be the case. And I will also tell you on whether GOJO is alive or not, as well as who it might be if it's not GOJO. So chapter 260 was a banger as we saw Todo's return. His cursed technique also made a comeback by using Vibra Slap, which is a percussion instrument used for striking the ball against the wooden box, which causes the metal teeth within to oscillate wildly, producing a characteristic sound. Now, Todo's technique has sort of changed due to using Vibra Slap. With his left hand being cut off, he changed the activation condition from clap to the collision between the metal teeth and the wooden box of the Vibra Slap, which has made it possible for him to activate his cursed technique 50 times per second. Not only that, he also imposed a binding vow on himself, which limits the amount of swaps in proportion to the oscillations of the Vibra Slap. Due to this, his ability to have multiple targets along with his effective range has expanded. This is honestly brilliant from Todo. He used his weakness to gain strength. From that I mean that before he always had to clap, which required him to use both of his hands as well as slightly more time. But with his hand being cut off, he lost his ability to clap with his both hands, thus him not being able to use his technique. But with him changing the activation technique and adding Vibra Slap, he not only recovered his technique but is also able to use it 50 times per second, which is a lot more, but with it also being his ultimate limit. Although there was no such limit when he had both of his hands, but it required more time to activate Boogie Woogie. Also, he can use his right hand to fight and land an attack while simultaneously using his technique more smoothly. Not to forget, its target and range has also been expanded. I think with all of this, we all can't see Todo as just a first grade Jujutsu sorcerer. This should make him most powerful or resourceful among the first grade sorcerers, making him better than Sakabe, Mei as well as late Nanami. As Sukuna also pointed out in this chapter, that with his improvements in Boogie Woogie, it is almost impossible for anybody to adapt to it. As you remember, in chapter 243, Yuta killed Kenjaku easily by slashing his neck. At the time, Kenjaku was surprised that how could he have not noticed Yuta given his cursed energy levels. At the time, he thought Takaba did not want it to be interfered, so he kept him from finding out and having fun. But now that it is revealed to us that Todo is still able to use his Boogie Woogie, it raises the possibility of Todo helping Yuta in killing Kenjaku. And if it does, it takes Yuta's probably the greatest feat yet in the story and makes it look pretty ordinary to us. Though it is a bit unlikely, as we did see the aftermath in which we didn't see Todo, but it could honestly just be Gege hiding the return of Todo from us. Who knows? Also, by the way, Todo's binding vow made it so he can't use someone else's hand to activate his cursed technique like how he did it with Mahito. He can also only use the Vibra Slap. So in a way it does limit him, but when the only thing you give up is other people's hand and you can use Boogie Woogie 50 times per second now, it kinda doesn't seem that it has any major drawbacks anymore. So, is GOJO really back? There can be some other person too. For example, maybe it is someone from the GOJO clan, or maybe Yuta is back and is copying GOJO's curse technique, or it could be that he used Kenjaku's curse technique to take over GOJO's body. If it really is GOJO, then there are few ways it is possible. One is pretty straightforward. That is, if you read the text from the narrator, which says Sukuna saw a vision of the man he had buried with his own hands, the departed spirit of the strongest. Here, the spirit or a ghost, depending on the translation, may mean something else entirely. Like, it may not refer to a dead person, but someone you haven't seen in a long time and didn't think you had ever see again. So Sukuna seeing that ghost may also mean that he is so close to the death that he is hallucinating the image of Gojo. It could be because of the black flashes that Yuji has landed on him recently, and with the attempt to use his domain, which was not successful because of his curse technique having not returned yet, I think, and which reminded him of his battle with Gojo because he felt nervous for the first time while fighting him. And second is, it could be that he broke a bounding vow. By that, what I mean is that recently we have been seeing a lot of characters using binding vow, especially Sukuna, who is using it left and right. Maybe he is feeling so cornered that he accidentally broke a bounding vow which he made during his battle with Gojo, or maybe in the entirety of the battle against Jujutsu sorcerers. But I find it way less likely than the other ones because Sukuna has lived, after all, for many years and fought countless battles in his life during Heian era, which is said to be the golden age of Jujutsu. So I find it practically impossible for him to make mistake like this. And the number 3 is Gojo has come back to life, which is what most of the Jujutsu fans are rooting for. But if that is the case, then the big question is how exactly did he come back to life? Like, we know that after Sukuna killed Gojo, his body was retrieved by Ui, and we did not see the reaction of Jujutsu sorcerers after his death, making it seem like they kind of expected it, and Gege made it seem like it was no big deal. So maybe Shoku treated him in time by making some kind of bounding vow, and if Gojo is returning, then some kind of bounding vow is definitely involved, whether he himself did it or other sorcerers helped him, especially when we take into consideration the number of bounding vows made during recent chapters. Also, one thing to note is that in the panel where Gojo's half face is shown, his right side is covered with his hair. If we think normally, then there is no reason to cover his eyes. I mean, other than making them look cool, I guess. But it could be that Gojo sacrificed his right eye and six eyes to come back to life. I think it could be possible if Gojo had started to make a bounding vow when he was divided in half by Sukuna. And it is also possible to do so by sacrificing his 6 eyes, because we have to remember that they are extremely rare in Jujutsu world. Also, if Gojo lost his 6 eyes, then how powerful is he? Because 6 eyes made it possible for him to use limitless to that extent with its perfect cursed energy manipulation. Sometimes I think that gives the revival theory a stronger base is that Gege loves to borrow ideas from other animes. Now there's one technique that allows you to revive from the dead at the cost of an eye. It does more than that, but it's unimportant for this theory, which is the ability can be activated long after your death and requires special eyes to do it. It should be pretty obvious if you are a Naruto fan about Izanagi, especially the moment Madara used it to revive himself days after dying to Hashirama, where he became the ghost of Uchiha. So there's a real very possibility of Gojo's revival and subsequent loss of an eye, which could be inspired by Izanagi. Furthermore, it may be Sukuna's final moments, because if Gojo is to join Yuji, then it is practically certain for Sukuna to die in a matter of few moments. So maybe somehow merger is the next definite thing that is going to happen in the story.